Here we go. Welcome to the Inner Squared Circle Superstar Academy. This month's topic is how to set the groundwork for promotions you want to work for, network without being considered a politician. And so here's what this is all about today. The wrestling business has slowed down. This was not my intention when I created this seminar topic. I came up with this topic a couple of weeks ago when I was thinking, you know what? You know what happens a lot of times is guys will go to shows and they'll tag along with their friends, or they'll show up there in person, or they'll go to a tryout. And you guys have probably seen this, or it might have even happened to you before, where you go there and you're hoping to get discovered, but you're kind of waiting on the sidelines. And you're hoping that they notice you, and they're hoping that you talk to them, or you're hoping that they give you an opportunity, but it just doesn't come. Do you know what I'm talking about there? So I wanted to help you guys be able to network in a way where you wouldn't come across like a politician, you wouldn't get heat, it wouldn't be uncomfortable for you, and you'd be able to actually set the groundwork and plant seeds for places that even if you don't start to work for tomorrow, you might be able to work for them in a couple of months or a year, right? So one of the concepts we're going to talk about is things in wrestling sometimes take longer than you think, but it actually doesn't take as long as you think, and we'll get there in a minute. It sounds confusing, but it really makes sense when you think about it. So here we go. Here's where we're at right now. Wrestling's slowing down. And this is an appropriate time seminar because now with WrestleMania shutting down and with the independent companies starting to shut down and stuff like that, it's like, where do you go? What do you do? And one of the things that I was talking to one of my clients, his name is Ryan, is he's like, what do I do now? So I was sharing with him, I actually had a situation like this earlier on in my career where I couldn't wrestle for about 3 months or so. And I actually got better. I'm going to share that story here with you in a minute. But what I really want to let you guys know today is there's a competitive advantage right now. And this isn't just happening to you. It's happening to the entire business, right? All the automatic things that you usually do have stopped. So all of the shows that you do that didn't pay you well, all of the things that you would do that you didn't really want to be doing, all the places you didn't really know where you wanted to be going, that's all slowed down. So now's the time to prepare. Now's the time to really regroup. So when I was talking to Ryan about the story of mine, what I was sharing with him was like, listen, this wrestling business is cyclical. There are seasons, right? So summer, fall, winter, spring. In summer, you're partying, but in fall, things are starting to slow down. And then winter, everything's shut. We're experiencing a winter right now, right? But here's the thing. If you can prepare in winter, you're going to dominate when things start to show up again and they start to turn around, that everything starts to open up. So if you can succeed now and prepare now, this is going to be such a huge help and such a great time for you guys to get to the next level. So this is the story that I shared with him. And I didn't even realize this at the time, but it's really relevant to what's going on right now. Is when I was in college, I wasn't able to wrestle for about 3 months. And that's because I couldn't have my car on campus. And so I was doing all the local loops and I was doing all the normal things I would do as a trainee. And what started happening was I couldn't bring my car on campus, so I couldn't wrestle for about 3 months. Now, a strange thing happened. You would think that I would actually get worse because I wasn't training, but I actually got better because what I was doing was I was studying shoot interviews. I was watching seminars like on YouTube. I was watching other matches like Bret Hart or Ric Flair or those types of anthology DVD sets. And I actually really started getting better. So when I showed up 3 months later, my career was entirely different because now I had a different character. I had a different perspective. I had new tips and tools and spots and a new lease on wrestling, so to speak. And I knew exactly where I wanted to go, where I didn't want to go, and what I would no longer settle for. So this period of downtime, think of it as a chance to regroup, right? Think of it as a chance to regroup and really figure out where it is you want to go and what you want to do. So this could be the best time of your career if you play your cards right. So for the purposes of the seminar, we're going to go back to a very, very fundamental concept here in wrestling. And we talk about it all the time. Number one is, you have to have passion in the business. So passion is right in the middle, but you also have to have clarity. You have to know exactly where you want to go. You have to have the right mindset, and then you also have the right strategies. So here's what happens typically. A wrestler wants to go somewhere in the business and they rely only on passion, but they're not really sure where to go. They try some random strategies. They go drive with their friends and they hope it works out and they get ignored. And then they wonder why that happened. So the first thing we have to do with anything, especially when it comes to networking, like this triangle here works with your matches because you have to know where the match is going to go. You have to have the in-ring psychology and you got to know the moves to get there. This triangle also works with networking because you got to be clear on who you want to talk to and meet. You got to be clear on the promotions you want to go to. You have to have the right psychology to be able to show up as a star, right? Have the it factor. But then also you need to know the practical steps to take to make that happen so that way you're not doing the wrong things at the wrong time. So these three components are very, very key, including passion, right? You have to have passion to move forward, but passion is not enough. You have to have clarity, psychology, and strategies. What a lot of wrestlers do is they go based solely on passion and they do the drives. They drive 3 hours. They try to meet the promoter. They go work for free and it doesn't work. That's not going to be you anymore. So by the end of the seminar, we're going to give you a game plan to be able to move forward and make this happen and network with people effectively. So the first step here, remember that triangle. Remember the passion in the middle, the clarity at the bottom, the psychology on the left, and the strategies on the right. We're going to build all these things together right here. All right, it's going to be step by step. So step number one, when you want to network with promotions, it could be a whole lot of different ways to do it, right? But when you really want to network with promotions, the first thing you have to do, now that you have some downtime, is set a clear intention and decide the types of promotions that you want to work for, long-term and short-term. And the qualities and the characteristics, not just I want to work for XYZ wrestling company because it's a cool company, right? Really think of what are the characteristics of these companies and why do you want to work there? Do you want to work for a company just to be busy every weekend? Now, if you do, that doesn't mean that company is going to be a good company, right? So for example, if you wanted to make more money and I gave you $1, you technically got what you wanted. If you want to wrestle all the time, what you might mean is you want to wrestle at the highest level all the time. But if you're busy all the time on local promotions, it might not be what you really want. So get very, very clear on the types of promotions you want to work for. First of all, what your long-term goals are. And secondly, where you want to go in the meantime that'll be able to help you get to those bigger companies and the qualities and characteristics. So I'm going to share with you another story. I was working with a tag team one time and WWE was doing the tag team tournament. Remember for NXT, they were doing the tag team classic and because they did the women's tournament, then they did the cruiserweight tournament and they were going to do a tag team tournament. This tag team came to me and they said, we want to work for WWE. I said, fantastic. Why do you want to do that? Because here was their reason. They wanted to make $50,000 a year apiece in wrestling. Okay. And they figured, and this makes total sense. They thought WWE was the only place to do that. Okay. Because, I mean, look at what else is out there compared to some independent companies. You might not be able to make, I mean, clearly $50,000 at a local VFW somewhere. So they're thinking WWE is the only place they can go. But I shared with them, just get clear on what you want, not WWE. I believe you can make it there, but what do you want and why? Why WWE? And they said, well, we want to be able to travel. We want to see the world. We want to do cool stuff. We want to get outside the country and WWE tours all over the world. We want to make $50,000 a piece. We want to have notoriety, all these different things, right? Well, guess what? No BS. Here's what happens. You ever buy a car and you see the car everywhere? Or you buy a t-shirt and then you see the t-shirt everywhere, or you notice something for the first time. You'd never noticed it before, but then now you notice it everywhere and you're like, oh my God, like, am I in the Twilight Zone? Once these guys got clear on what they wanted to, this was no BS. I have a testimonial to prove this. 3 months later, they get contacted by a company in China. Guess what happens? They make $50,000. They get to travel and see the world. They get the notoriety, and because of the schedule, it's not a year-round tour. They get to come back to the States and spend time with their family. Now, the really cool thing is they were so well regarded in that company, and it wasn't WWE, right? Try to pull this in WWE. They brought all of their friends with them. So not only did that tag team get to go to China and make $50,000 a year, but they got to bring all of their friends with them from the independent level, and they all got to go. To me, that's really cool. That's the power of getting clear and setting the intention and deciding what types of promotions you want to work for. Because what you're after isn't necessarily the end goal, even though that's important. What you're after is what that's really going to give you, right? So if it's money or fame or whatever, that, like, get clear on these are the types of companies. And the other thing is, once you get clear on the types of companies, you also know what you're not going to accept anymore. So once you're clear, you're not going to accept people that take advantage of you. You're not going to accept people that pay you less than what you're worth, right? And you're also going to be realistic, though, because some local companies can't afford to pay you big money. So you have to get clear on what you're going to accept short term and long term. And then so once you get clear, now we have to work on your psychology. And so you know where you want to go. You know the types of companies you want to work for. So now we got to get one level deeper, right? We got to get clearer on the psychology. So what we're talking about here is we want to reach out to promoters, whether you're young or old, or whether you're new in the business or you've been around for a while, right? You want to reach out in a way that says, yes, I exist and I'm out there, but not in a way that says, hey, I'm brand new, I'm really, really green, and please book me for free. Okay, now, if you were with us in Superstar Academy for our January seminar, we talked about the 4 levels of independent wrestling. Now, this is a pitfall for a lot of people in level 1. Like, they're fresh out of wrestling school, they're really excited, and they go, hey, I'm here, use me for free, I'll set up the ring, stuff like that. That's great. But we also learned that somebody that's a veteran could also just stay in level 1 wrestling because they think that's all that there is. But there's a transition you have to make. The way you make the transition from level 1 to level 2, and you can do this immediately, like, you don't have to be a year in the business, you can do this now, is you reach out in a way to these promoters that once again says, I exist and I'm out there, but not in a way that says, hey, I'm brand new and please book me, I'm kind of green. That's not what you want to do, right? So we're going to get into strategies on how to do that here in a moment. So going out and giving wrestling away for free, it'll get you bookings, it'll work for the short term, but if you do it long term, it's really just coming from a place of desperation and fear. And promoters can smell it, and so can the fans, right? If you don't really believe you're worth it, the promoters don't believe it, and the fans don't believe it. Now, I bet you in the promotion you're in right now, there are some people that might even be getting paid more than you, right? So why is that? Why do some people that seemingly don't have the same talent, passion, or respect for the business get everything they want, and then you're here busting your ass and it doesn't always work? It's because of the way that they word things. So you don't want to be a politician like those guys, but you want to be professional, right? So try instead, if you're in the position, because I want to have this be all encompassing. If you're in the position where you're relatively new and you still kind of have to work for free, go get the experience, but you don't want to telegraph how new you are. Does that make sense? So you can acknowledge, you can be truthful. And I advise you to be truthful. There are other methods out there. I've seen these before where they literally just invite you to straight up lie. And I will never tell you to do that, right? What people, I've seen these templates. As a matter of fact, like, I actually made a whole program, like, before Superstar Academy, I made a whole program about this called Booking Emails That Don't Suck. And we literally went through all these problem emails that people would send to me as coaching clients, and I used them as examples. And they were lies. They were like, hey, so-and-so, I'm visiting my grandma 12 hours away, and I'm only going to be there on the night of your show. And really all I want to do is set up your ring for free. If there's a spot on the show, oh, I guess you could twist my arm, and I guess I'll wrestle for you. But you don't have to pay me, though. But really, I'm just there to set up the ring. Like, that's not true. Do you know? Like, it's not true. Of course you're there to wrestle, right? The promoter knows you're there to wrestle. You know you're there to wrestle. But you're both trying to, like, play cool about it, and nobody really wants to ask each other what they really want. This is, like, don't try to work the promoter. You know what I'm saying? Just be very cool about this. Like, hey, I really want to work with you. I need some more experience, and I really want to show you what I can do. And you know what? I can cover myself with merch and 8x10s, right? So see the difference? Even if you have to work for free, you're still working for free, but you're not lying about it, and you're not hiding from it. And you're like, this is where I'm at. Hey, listen, I know I'm new, and I know you're not familiar with me. I want to show you what I can do. Here's what I can offer you. And you know what? Don't even worry about it. I cover myself. There's a big difference there. Listen to the difference between I can cover myself, or feel a difference here. I can cover myself, or hey, I'll set up the ring for free if you have a spot on the show, just whatever I can do for you, right? Hey, I'll go to the show and help you out, and I can cover myself. I got it taken care of. Or, well, whatever you want, sir, I'm just happy to be here. Do you feel me on this, right? Does that make sense? We have a chat room here. Oh, I see some. That was actually me testing it. I wanted to see if anybody had any questions, though. If you guys have any questions, if this is making sense, let me know. I want to make sure that I'm covering everything for you. Okay, so try this. If you have to work for free, if you're new, try this approach. Or this will also work if you're a veteran or something like that, and you're going to travel, and the promoter isn't quite yet sure that you're worth the investment to bring in as far as a flight or a hotel. Like, if you guys can cover it, or if you guys have the airline miles or something like that, just be like, hey, I really want to work for you. I can cover it myself. Just pay my rate, and I'm going to cover the flight for the first time, right? Just be cool about it. That's the thing. Like, a lot of wrestlers and a lot of trainers out there, like, everybody's trying to work each other, right? Like, and then you go to these seminars and it's a worker trying to work a worker to, it's just crazy. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Just be upfront and let them know what's up, and it's going to take you much further in the long run. So now that we have the general idea of clarity, right? You got to get clear on where you want to go, short term and long term, and the reasons why. And we shared with you, once you get clear, opportunities start to show up. Like my friends there, the tag team that wanted WWE, but they got China, but it worked out so much better for them in the long run, right? Because WWE doesn't really focus on tag teams, especially a lightweight tag team, right? Or now that we also have the mindset of psychology, what we want to do is show up as like, hey, we're not green. We're here to do our best, and we can cover ourselves, right? It's a different type of approach. So we have the psychology, we have the clarity. Now we're going to overview some strategies. There is only a few ways to network in wrestling, right? And we're going to break them down, because I think the added bonus to this is when wrestlers sometimes get in the business, they get overwhelmed. And I share this in some of my other seminars that I've done, but people have confided in me. They go, when I started wrestling school, like, it made sense, because what they basically did was their trainer kind of held them by the hand, and they did the local shows with the trainer, and they were doing this, the loop that they always, and they were very, very protected, right? But then once they got out of their local area and the trainer wasn't there anymore to kind of guide them, and they felt like they're on their own, they go, I feel like I'm in the woods and I have no idea where to go. And it gets overwhelming. Like, well, do I go here, or do I go there? Or do I email people? Like, it seems infinite. So I want to break this down. Like, there's only a couple of ways and strategies to network with people. And once you break it down into its core components, you know what they are. And then once you know what they are, you can master them. And here's the thing, like, there's going to be one or two of these that really work well for you better than others, right? So here's what they are. The first few strategies to network is cold emailing someone. Now, this is probably the least effective way. And you guys have felt the pain of this before. And if you haven't, trust me, it's coming. I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but there's going to be a time in your career, and it's going to happen soon, where you have your hopes up and you just cold email a promotion and you think it's going to work, and they just blow you off, right? Who here has been there? Let me know. Just tell me yes in the comment section. Happens all the time. Now, one thing I want to point out to you with that is, listen, these promoters aren't just sitting there waiting for your email, right? Like, we think we're wrestlers, we want to be there. We think that they're just sitting there loving life and watching these tapes. Picture, like, if you're at work and then and then your boss puts a big stack of resumes and papers on your desk, says, do this by tomorrow. Like, you're not excited to watch those or read those, right? That is the booker's email every day. So first of all, don't take that personally if you get ignored. There are ways around that. We can share that with you. It's a bigger conversation altogether. We take people through an entire process there. But cold emails typically are the least effective way long-term, unless you know the strategy. Okay? So don't be discouraged if cold emails aren't working for you right now. The other way to do it would be, I'm going to skip around the order here, but if you have champions or friends or someone that can introduce you. So there's the cold email, but then there's the email where a friend of a friend helps you out. These work so much better. And I'll give you a couple different strategies. So one way would be, you know, someone that works for the company, You reach out to them, and I'm going to get to this a little bit more. I'm going to go in depth, and you say, hey, can you help me out? And then they make an introduction, right? If you get an introduction from a friend, you are so much more likely to stay on that promoter's radar than a cold email, right? So the least effective way is just a cold email. The second, I wouldn't say least effective way, but I would say a much better way. I think that's a better way to word that. A much better way is if you had an introduction, because listen, wrestling is a networking business. I didn't realize this at the time when I was wrestling full time. But if you spent just as much time building relationships as you do on your moves, you're going to have a much better chance of success, right? Look at who they tend to make it in groups, right? So Kevin Owens goes to WWE. Well, he also brings along with him Sami Zayn, right? Like people that kind of flock together, stick together. Or AJ Styles goes to WWE. Well, so does the Bullet Club, right? So, or Cody Rhodes goes to AEW, and so do the Young Bucks. People stay together. So networking, being in the right place, right time. Like, for example, QT Marshall, Cody Rhodes trains at his wrestling school, right? That's a direct into AEW, and QT's very talented. But now if QT was talented, didn't know who Cody was, and lived 12 hours away and sent him a random cold email, would it work as well? Maybe, but it works so much better because he's already in the network. Does that make sense? So you want to write this down. Proximity is power. This isn't in the PowerPoint. This is a bonus. Proximity is power. Be around the people that you want to become. You become like the people you surround yourself with. So surround yourself with people that are gonna grow and help you, and you're gonna help them, and you're all gonna push each other to the next level. Don't just surround yourself with people that complain on the weekends and say, well, how come it's not working for me? Right? So being in the network, being around people, and getting that referral, right? So that's the second way. The third way is in person. So networking in in-person meetings. So this is actually getting in the car and going to meet somebody. This is where, so like I said, if you have a friend and your friend's going to the show, he could network with you, and he could make the introduction online through a Facebook message or an email, or he can make the introduction in person, which would be even better because now you're connecting in person. And I'll share with you more strategies on that in a second. Or the other way is you just go to a show, because it's one of those things where it's like, hey, I'm in the area, or whatever that might be. Or the promoter says, hey, come on down, or like Ring of Honor or WWE or something like that. They might bring in as an extra. You know how that works? And so you're trying to meet somebody and network, but you're not really sure what to do. By the way, I've seen this before. I've been backstage. I've done production for Ring of Honor. I've done production for All In. I was an extra for WWE myself, and I would see this all the time. The people that are there to network, there's like two groups of them. There's the ring crew and the volunteers, and they're trying to do a really good job setting up the ring. So that way they hope like the promoter goes, that guy setting up the ring over there, I love the way he swings that hammer and wrench. That's the guy, right? Like people think that's the way to work. Or the other way is they're the people that are the extras, and they're in the suit and tie, and you can tell because they're like overly dressed in a gigantic suit and tie, and they got their hands in front of their crotch with their heads down, and like their arms are folded, and they're just like it's like they're like a pallbearer in a funeral or something like that, right? So when you're networking, you don't want to be that guy. You got to know how to go up there and meet people. So meeting people in person is a great way. So I want to summarize this because I went on a tangent. Number one, there's only a couple ways to network. One is cold emailing. Cold emailing is probably the least effective way long-term, okay, unless you're really, really good at it. Number two, in order of the way it is on the page, networking in person is a great way, and meeting people in person because they get to see you. But you got to do it where you're not a wallflower. You got to do this with confidence in a way, like this is the theme, in a way that says, I'm not green. Okay. And then third, the other way is champions and friends and introduction. So having a friend say, hey, so-and-so, this is my friend Jared. Hey, so-and-so, this is my friend Dave, right? I think you guys should meet each other. I think you'd be a great help to the company. So those are the main ways to network. The other way to network is more in lines of marketing, and that would be social media. So like Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, things like that. I consider that more of a marketing strategy than a networking strategy, right? So let's take Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or anything like that, right? You could have a friend do a group message on Facebook Messenger and just make it like a sentence long. Hey, promoter so-and-so, this is my friend Jared. I wanted to connect you guys. He's really good. He's from this area. I think he's a great fit. Take it away, right? That's going to go so much further than anything else. Facebook, Twitter, things like that, as far as like demo reels go, that's more of a marketing strategy. That'll be a whole other thing for some other time. So now, networking in person. Let's get into how to network in person. The biggest problem with networking in person, which I see all the time, is we talked about this a moment ago, is wrestlers do all the work up front. They get all psyched up. They get all dressed up. They bust their ass. They're doing the ring crew. They finally got in the right place at the right time. And guys, like, I'm not knocking it. Like, to get backstage at Ring of Honor is a big deal. To get backstage at WWE as an extra in any capacity is a big deal, right? Like, not everybody gets that opportunity. But they get right to the gates and then they don't stick the landing, right? It's like a gymnastics person, like warming up and getting ready to go and running as fast as they can and then getting ready to jump over the bar, but then they just stop and walk back to the starting line. That's what happens with a lot of these wrestlers. So we want you to be able to stick the landing. Doing the drives is okay, but it's not okay if there's no outcome. So what I mean is, if you're going to go drive 5-6 hours to go meet a promoter, you better leave meeting the promoter. You better leave getting somebody's phone number. Otherwise, you've wasted your time. But you're convincing yourself, because you put a lot of hours in the car, that you've made progress. I really want you to be able to make progress, right? So don't just get there and stay on the sidelines. Here is how you're going to do it instead from now on. So when you show up, even before you go, if you have the list and you're clear on your list, you know where it is you want to go, you know what it is you want to do, you know the types of promotions you want to work for, you should be in the right direction. Number one now is set an intention and decide who you want to meet and what the outcomes have to be, right? So if you're going to be an extra, I will meet Stephanie McMahon. I will meet John Laurinaitis. I will meet Triple H, right? It might not work, but at least you have an outcome, right? And if I don't meet them, well, I'm going to go meet John Cone, or I'm going to go meet Ty Bailey or Mark Carrano, right? I might be dating myself with Ty Bailey. But really think about this, right? Know who it is you want to meet. If you go to AEW, I want to go meet Cody Rhodes. He's there, right? I want to go try to meet Tony Khan. And you might not get to meet those people, but at least meet people that are there that can help you and move you towards the right direction, that can point you in the right direction, okay? Now, once you know who it is you want to meet and what you want to come away with, right? And by the way, we're planting seeds. You're not going to go up there and get the magical contract the second that they see you when you walk up to them. Happens sometimes, but that's very rare. You're playing the long game. This is all about the long game. So once you know who it is you want to meet, who you want to talk to, now you have to take actions that are equal to the outcomes that you want. So standing on the sidelines in your suit and hoping somebody notices how well dressed you are won't work, right? I had a first-hand experience of this. John Laurinaitis set me straight one time. I had gone to TV a few times and they liked me. And I'd never told the story before. They liked me. And so I was in the ring and it was before the show and there was like a mixed tag team match going on and I was in the corner. Nobody tagged me in. So I was like, okay, these are all the superstars here. I don't want to interrupt their practice. So I was just kind of waiting on the sidelines, letting them do their thing. John Laurinaitis is in the stands and he's on his cell phone, but he's observing. Now he calls me in the office. Me and John had a weird relationship. He liked me and he didn't like me at the same time. It was weird. I think he was trying to teach me some lessons. We had like 3, 4, 5 different meetings over the course of 6 months. So I go to the office. John Laurinaitis calls me in. He goes, hey, I saw you out there. I go, yes, sir. He goes, I want to let you know, I know they're in the ring, but he goes, you're here at WWE, right? You're here to get a look. Standing on the sidelines with your hands in your pocket does not get you noticed here, right? And I go, oh my God, you're right. He goes, we got to see what you have. So when you get to TV, you might be trying to be polite and respectful. Take your opportunity. Let them see what you have, right? And then now be committed but unattached to the outcome. So here's another example. I had a friend of mine. He's in great shape. He at the time, like, he thought that he was going to get signed. We both believed he was going to get signed. Like like if you had a magic 8 ball, all signs point to yes, right? Well, He goes to TV. He's in the best shape of his life. He just gets off his first Japanese tour. He's got tons of momentum. The internet's talking about him. He's like, all I got to do, I'm going to meet Triple H. I'm going to meet Vince. Here we go. This is going to be awesome. Well, there was some type of emergency, and it was the first event in like 20 years where no one from the McMahon family and Triple H were all not at TV. None of them were there. And he was only there for that day, right? He was only booked for that day. And like we were prepared, like you're going to go beat Triple H, you're going to talk to him, what you're going to do. Nobody was there, right? So he had to do the next best thing. And so he did the next best thing. I think he either found William Regal or he found Mark Carrano or something like that. He exchanged emails. It didn't work out the way he wanted to, but he still ended up getting a tryout out of it, right? He was booked at a Performance Center tryout shortly thereafter. So be committed, but unattached to the outcome. But also, right, like, so for example, the tag team I talked about, they wanted to go to WWE, but they were unattached to the outcome. That what they wanted was what WWE would have given them. So they were committed to their goal. They were committed to making it, but they weren't dead set on it had to be this way and it couldn't be anything else. So when China opened up for them, they were able to take advantage of the opportunity. So be committed, be unattached to the outcome. It's not always going to work out. Sometimes the cards aren't always in your favor, but when it's time for the stars to align, they will. Okay, but this is a lot different than hope marketing. You see the difference? Do you see the difference between just hoping it works out and going in the corner with your arms folded and hoping someone notice you to this? This is a whole lot different. I'll give you one more. This is totally unrelated. I had a guy one time, he was in production and he was in Jacksonville, Florida, because that's where he lives, and SmackDown was there. So he shows up to SmackDown. And I think he was actually booked. He was booked with the local union labor company. So, for example, right, like WWE has their traveling company that sets up the ring and tears it down, but they also have local union workers that come in, and so the union venues like arenas, they'll bring in union workers that set up the Titantron and run the cables, right? So this guy was a union worker, but he's also a camera guy, and he wants to go work for WWE as a camera guy. So he calls me up. I get a random phone. He goes, I'm at SmackDown. What do I do? I go, you should have called me like 3 days ago. Like, why are you? He's like, no, I'm right outside I have no idea what to do. And because he's a union worker, he only has to be there half day. So he's not even going to be there for the show, right? So they're going to cut him loose at like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. He's going to miss all the action. He wants to get a job as a camera guy. He goes, what do I do? I did a quick version of this. Where do you want to go? Why do you want to go there? Who do you have to meet? Who do you have to talk to? He does that. He calls him back. He goes, I got to try out. Literally within like a 10-minute conversation, he goes and does that. He goes, I got to try out. Right. They literally, because they were going to have a dark match at the end of the night that was only going to be used for the house. They let the guy go in front of the barricades. They gave him a WWE camera and they let him run camera, and he got to try out right on the spot. And they watched him do his camera operating. Right. So here's the power of this. And I've seen this with firsthand experience all the time. So this is so much better than being a wallflower. Now, bonus tips. Focus on the long game. It's going to take longer than you think, but it's going to be faster than you think. And then be cool, be fun, and be intentional. So what does that mean? It's going to take longer than you think, but not as long as you think. It's going to happen faster than you think. It sounds like it's a contradiction, but I'll share this with you. I had another client who wanted to be a ring announcer, and he wanted to make it at a big level on like a national TV scale. He was doing TV, but it was like regional TV. So if it was like, if he wanted to make it to like Ring of Honor, NWA, AEW, MLW type scale, and eventually go to WWE, he was doing like championship wrestling from Hollywood, which is not a knock. And that's not really where he was. I'm just making up this name right now. But he was doing like a local company with TV that was a reputable product, but he wasn't at like the higher echelons, like Dave Meltzer type company. Does that make sense? But he wanted to be there. So he starts out about a year ago. Well, but like, so let's just, to give you a generality, he starts out a year earlier and he sends an email to WWE, and he swings for the fences with a cold email. Remember I told you about this? Now the cold email gets totally ignored. As a matter of fact, I think Todd Phillips or Tom Phillips got back to him and he goes, hey, we're not interested right now. So this guy's totally devastated. That was a year ago. But he kept following up over time, and he kept planting seeds. There was an MLW, they kept telling him no for a period of time, but because he tried a year earlier, he was already on the radar. So he was already in rotation. Does that make sense? It's not like he emailed him for the first time and then got a gig the next day. He was already known in their minds for about a year, and he kept following up. So when MLW had an opening for a ring announcer, he was the first guy they called, and it only took him about a year. Now look at it this way: a year, is that a long time? Well, that's relative. But if he wasn't top of mind, it's taken people 3, 4, 5, 6 years to make it anywhere. I've seen guys that are veterans, 14 years in the business, they're still doing the same thing they've done when they first started, right? It just happens sometimes. So if you can do the right strategy, it's going to take longer than you think, because it's not going to be one email then you're signed, but it's going to take faster than you think, because it's only going to take you like a year and a half to 2 years before you make major traction. And it's not going to be like 20 years before you get somewhere, right? It doesn't have to be this long, hard journey. You can do it within about 18 months, right? Is this making sense? So again, be cool, be fun, be intentional. And then, so here's the general conversation, right? Don't overthink this. Keeping it simple is key. All you're going to do is you when you meet somebody, so hey, my name is blank, right? I do this, I do XYZ. This is what I'm up to, right? So that's kind of like that. So for example, right, like let's use Razor Ramon as an example. If you guys know who that is, right? Scott Hall. So Razor Ramon was like Scarface, right? He was a Cuban guy. So if that's your character, you go, hey, what's going on? I do this character. It's kind of like Scarface, right? So you get the picture, right? Like I'm like a wrestling Scarface. Or when I was doing my character, I was like an Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I was like Bollywood, right? So like picture like a Jinder Mahal before he was famous. So I was a Bollywood action hero, and that was my character. But how do you explain that to somebody? Hey, my name's Jared. I do this character. It's really cool. I'm like a Hollywood action hero, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, only I'm from India, right? And they go, oh, cool, I get that. Like he's like an Indian Bollywood version of Arnold. You get that very, very quickly, right? It's not like, oh, hey, how are you? Please use me at the show, and this is my character, and this is my passion, and I've been doing this for 15 years, and really, it's not like an essay, right? It's like, hey, what's going on? This is who I am. I do X, Y, Z. It's kind of like this, right? And then just do 1 or 2 sentences, right? And it doesn't have to be just blasting it at him or her. Have a conversation. Hey, my name's so-and-so. Hey, so-and-so, nice to meet you. What are you all about? Oh, you know what? I do this thing. It's kind of like that. What's going on with your promotion? Oh, well, we're doing this show coming up. Oh, that's really cool. I really enjoy the promotion. Now, here's 1 or 2 things that I do that I think it really makes me stand out. When's the best opportunity to connect or work together or follow up, right? And he'll be honest with you. So all you're going to do, don't overthink it. My name is blank. This is what I do, X, Y, Z. It's kind of like this. 1 or 2 sentences about what it is that you do or your character or something that makes you stand out. And then you plant the seed. When's the best time or the best opportunity to work together or to reconnect or for me to send you a demo reel? I'd love to send you a demo reel. When can I send that to you? Right? I have a YouTube link. I'll send it to you right now. Right? Or here's a tip, right? Be like, hey, I'd love to stay in connection with you. What's your number? I'm going to shoot you a text message with a link to my demo reel. Right? Now you get a couple different things. You pull out the phone, you put his number in the phone, right? You're already just assuming that he's going to give it to you. He gives you the phone number. Now, number 1, you have his phone number, so you can contact the guy directly. Number 2, he gets your demo reel. And number 3, it's so much more personal than a random email. Is this making sense? Okay, great. So when's the best opportunity to work together? Reconnect, follow up. Get his phone number right there. Send it to him, email it to him, right? Create the connection. And then now what you're going to do is actually follow up. The key is let people know you're there. And I'm going to repeat it because it's so worth repeating. Let people know you're there, but in a way that doesn't say I'm brand new and I'm really, really green. And then keep following up periodically. Don't be a pain in their butt, but you can follow up every week or so, every 2 weeks. Or if they say, hey, you know what? We got nothing right now, but check back in 2 months. We'll check back in a month and a half and be like, hey, you told me to check back in about 2 months. I wanted to make sure that I was top of mind before the next show happened, right? They can't blame you for doing what they told you to do. So look at it that way. and then keep following up periodically. Now, as far as paying your dues, right? If you show up to a place and you're in a situation where you do this and they go, hey, so-and-so, come over here. I need you to help out. Go help them, right? Don't big league, then be like, nah, listen, brother, I don't help out here. I'm here to wrestle. Help them, right? And it doesn't contradict what we're talking about here, because there's a difference, and I want you to hear this. There's a difference between helping and then being the help. Hear me again, right? There's a difference between being helpful and then being the help, right? There are people that are booked on the shows only to be, quote unquote, the help, right? It's like the wrestling equivalent of a dishwasher. You don't want to be the wrestling equivalent of a dishwasher. What you want to be is the cool guy that's willing to do what's asked. There's a big difference with a talent that has a great attitude, is professional, is willing to do what is asked of him. And there's a big difference between being desperate, right? So what a lot of wrestlers do is they have nothing to offer, or not that they don't have anything to offer, but they're afraid of getting rejected. So what they do is they hedge their bets. And they hedge their bets by basically just being like, well, hey, you know what? I'm just going to set up the ring. I'm going to help you out, whatever I can do. Like they lead with volunteerism, right? You're not going to lead with that attitude. You're going to lead with, I'm a wrestler first. I'm here to make it. I'm here to, be the best I can. And if you need me, that's cool too. But you're not going to lead like with your major proposal is like, hey, I can set up stuff for free for you and then take your tickets, right? You don't want to do that. I hope this is all making sense so far. So now we're going to get into email strategies. So we talked about how cold emails are probably the least effective way to make it happen, okay? And I get into this in depth. There's a whole library on this, right? But there's a lot to be said here. So it's more than I can do in just like an hour-long Superstar Academy thing. But what I want to remind you, and we said this earlier, is promoters are not just waiting for emails, right? And they're usually not excited to go through them. All right, like I said, picture you being at work and picture you being away from work for the weekend, and you show up on Monday and you have an inbox of 500 emails, right? It drives you nuts. You don't even read all of them, right? And you get really good at scanning which ones you don't want to read. So that's why, like I told you earlier, warm emails are better than cold emails. And these are with referrals. So here's how this works. You're going to ask for a referral from a champion, and what I mean, not like the champion of the company, but like someone that would champion your cause, right? Like someone that has your back, right? Like when me and my friends were trying to get into WWE, we had Mike Bucci, who was always backing us, even when he was no longer with the company. He would call them up and say, hey guys, these guys are good, use them, right? Like he was a really good guy. And he helped us get so much further than what we would have done on our own. So ask for referrals from people that would have your back, that would champion you, that are friends or peers that are at where you want to be at, right? And just be cool with them. And they're going to make an introduction for you. So here's how you do this. Here's how you ask your friends, or here's how you ask these people. You go, hey, I'm looking to reach out to this promotion. Could you make an introduction for me? Now, there's the difference, right? Wrestlers are afraid to do this. And this isn't a criticism, because I used to do this too. I never wanted to ask for anything because I thought even the very act of me asking for something made me an asshole. That's what I thought, right? But you got to really consider this. If you don't ask for what you want, you're never going to get it. But there's a difference between, and I've seen this before, hey brother, get me a spot on the show. That's not cool, right? And it's not going to work. Hey brother, get me booked. There's a whole meme about that. Like, hey, book me, bro, right? Or how about this, right? I remember this. Me and my buddy Drew, he's my best friend. He got signed to WWE, and we knew that it was going to get announced. Like WrestleZone was going to put it up, like all the new signees, and we counted it. We're like, how many people that you haven't talked to, because I was at the gym with him at the time. I go, how many people that you haven't talked to in 10 years are going to message you and like consider you their best friend? And it was like 15 people in the first 10 minutes that we hadn't talked to in like 10 years that used to crap all over him. Like, oh, hey brother, I always knew it. Hey, can you put in a good word for me? Like, it wasn't a sincere compliment. Like, it was all like, hey brother, can I send you my demo reel? Right. And he just got signed to developmental. What's he going to do? Right. But that's the mentality. But there's a difference between book me, bro, And can you make an introduction for me? All right? Because can you make an introduction for me doesn't put him on the hook for anything. All you're asking for is the opportunity to meet somebody. It's a whole lot different than saying, I'm going to hand you my demo reel and now you're responsible for getting me booked at this company. That's not the approach. So feel the difference. Hey, I'm looking to reach out to this promotion. Can you make an introduction? Excuse me. Hey, I'm looking to reach out to this promotion. Could you make an introduction for me? I already have a message or an email written out for you, and then make it so easy for them to say yes, right? And then also be like, hey man, I got your back. If you need me to help you out too, I'll totally do that for you if I'm ever in the same position, right? It's a win-win, and you're not making them responsible. So they don't have to go to bat for you or get you booked. Like, they're not responsible for your success or failure. All they got to do is be like, hey, this is so-and-so. Maybe you guys can meet up, right? That's the psychology here. So I'm going to give you the formula. And then you take it from there. You have the conversation. Once you get this email, the warm message, now it's up to you, right? And there's a lot more that goes into this. So here's what you're going to say. You're going to go, hey, blank, well, this is the template that you give to your friend. And this is what they say for you. Hey, blank, I want to introduce you to my friend, so-and-so. So-and-so does this for that. So he's been wrestling for 15 years and he wrestled XYZ, trained by this, like whatever, right? He or she is blank, blank, and blank, like just put you over. And there's someone I trust. So that could be about your character. That could be anything, right? And he's someone I trust. I highly recommend you guys get together and reach out because he is this. Like he'd be a great addition, or he does this awesome character, or he's super over. He's about to go to Japan and blow up, and I think he's a great fit. Like something, right? And I'm sure you'll be interested in using them. I'll let you guys take it from here. Sincerely, whatever. So I'll read it again. Hey, blank, I want to introduce you to my friend blank. This person does this, this, and this for XYZ. They're this, and this, and they're someone I trust, and I really recommend you reach out to them because they're awesome. They do this, right? Like, so describe yourself. And I'm really sure you'll be interested in using them. So I'm going to let you guys take it from here. And then they just kind of fade away, right? This is like a paragraph. This is short. It's not a college essay. You know, this is just so short and casual and to the point. Nobody's going to say no to this, right? And then it's up to you. And then you thank your friend for it, and you got their back when the time comes. It's a give and take, like it's a win-win. So now here's the summary. And before we do this, I want to check in. Type in the chat room, what are some of your biggest takeaways right now? Like what are some of your biggest takeaways from today's event so far? I really want to hear from you, and I want to see what you guys have enjoyed and what some of your aha moments are. So here's the summary. You're going to play the long game, right? You want to have an intention. You want to plant the seeds for later. And a warm introduction is a lot better than a cold introduction. And right now, preparing in the winter when things are slowing down is going to lead you to the springtime. So if you prepare now, like, so imagine if wrestling slowed down and nothing's really happened, well, guess what's also not happening? All these promoters that are quote unquote so busy are off the road, right? They're sitting home. They have the time to look at email. They have the time to take phone calls, right? So imagine if all of a sudden they get an email from one of their talent and they're like, hey, so-and-so, check out my boy Jared. He's awesome. This is the email. And okay, cool. You have a quick conversation. When wrestling comes back in a few months, you've just booked your calendar with all these different companies. And some of them might even be some of your dream companies, right? Like, who knows? This sets you up so much better for success than just sitting around. Because if you prepare now, like what I told you before, you're going to be so much more set up in a couple months' time when this bounces back. So